Big, bigger China. One oversized bicycle parking lot. We're visiting one of the biggest bike factories in China. It takes 5 hours to turn 100 individual parts into one bicycle. 3,000 bikes come off the production lines here every day, with and without motors. Our reporter Anne wants to find out firsthand just how much work goes into making a bike.
I don't have enough hands.
You've worn out the teeth.
Here they get packed into boxes, then it's off to Germany. I want to go home too.
Anne's first day at the bicycle factory in China. Factory manager Wang welcomes the reporter and hands her one very important part of her work gear. Here is a mask for you. Officially, the mask is compulsory and an anti-corona measure in the factory. We'll be able to see later on just how much the virus influences the work here. Wang Chongwang is the production manager and prefers to cycle around the huge factory site. There are 6 halls here. There's a lot of manual work for Anne today, so the most important thing she needs to do is wear gloves. There is no other protective clothing. Here the workers wear their own clothes. Anne's workplace for the next few hours is in the steel and aluminium plant. This is where they make classic frames for mountain bikes. Later on, finished bikes using these frames will cost 200 to 400 euros. At Anne's first workstation, aluminium tubes are bent into the typical shape of a frame. Insert tube, press button, bend. Sounds simple. She's shown how to do it once, and then she has to do it by herself. So much for on-the-job training.
I have to say, I was a bit startled and surprised that they just let me use this machine without any supervision. This machine is super intimidating. It really scares me a bit, because I can just feel how much power is behind it.
Anne's colleagues in the hall weld the individual parts into finished frames, and they are then transported to the next hall via conveyor belts on the ceiling.
Well, I have to say, the whole atmosphere here in the hall is a bit depressing and loud and dark. It's a very rugged environment. I don't know if I'd want to work here all day.
But she doesn't have to. After her lunch break, we move on to the next station in another hall. Production is running at full speed. The summer and the corona measures, which have mostly been lifted, have resulted in an increase in orders and empty warehouses. We quickly notice hardly anyone wears a mask, and no one seems to care about keeping their distance either. Due to the low rate of new infections in the region, the tension slowly seems to be easing. Now they're working hard to make up for the losses acquired during the corona months. However, many stations lack the personnel to cope with the increasing output. Anne is here to help. This afternoon she prepares frames for their final assembly. Now she needs to multitask. Anne performs 3 tasks simultaneously: attaching protective caps, attaching metal rings, and tightening the bottom brackets. This is the first station of a long production chain. After this step, the next workers are already waiting for the frame. If Anne is too slow, she slows down the whole production. If she makes any mistakes now, everything stops.
I'm so afraid I'll break this. I don't know how hard I have to hit it. Wow, it's pretty hot in here.
With an average outside temperature of 32 degrees Celsius and constantly running machines, temperatures in the factory can sometimes reach 40 degrees. But it's not just the heat that bothers Anne. It won't go back in.
It won't?
You've worn out the teeth.
What? And now?
Only brute force can help now. What doesn't fit is made to fit.
Is that bad?
All good.
Oopsie.
The rest of her shift runs smoothly. Nevertheless, her colleagues are still a little skeptical. Because of the many orders, everyone has to work overtime. An average worker here earns around €400 a month.
I wouldn't have thought that so much physical labor goes into it. I somehow thought there'd be more machines and robots involved. But it was really a lot of muscle work, and I have so much respect for these people who do it every day, especially in this noise and this heat.
After 15 hours, Anne finally gets off work. She's not allowed to go to the workers' accommodation. Anne sleeps in a hotel next to the factory. After a short night's sleep, we leave early in the morning. Anne is standing in for a sick worker. She has 1,000 colleagues here. Nevertheless, it's been rather lonely for Anne at the assembly line so far. Everyone does their work as quickly as possible. There's seldom time for conversation, but that's about to change. Boss Wang takes Anne to the next production hall. Here they assemble the wheels. For the rest of the day, Anne has to screw in spokes. The most prestigious job here. No other task requires more training. During the spoking process, she connects so-called spoke nipples with the spokes and secures them. She gets help from Cheng Xiaohuang. The 36-year-old has been working here for almost 5 years and is a true spoke professional.
I'll keep an eye on what you're doing.
It doesn't look difficult at all. Now Anne has to do it.
Is this the first hole? That's right. Then you take 3 spokes, 2 come over, and you screw one tight. The 2 here have to cross over each other.
Easier said than done. Anne is struggling.
Getting this little screw through and at the same time turning it onto the spoke at just the right moment was really very difficult. The spoke nipple is gone. You have to change it. How? It is inside the frame now. It's hollow. Is that bad? No.
After many failed attempts, Anne finally has one wheel ready. At least, she thinks she does.
She has now shaken out all the screws I lost in the frame, and you can still hear them.
After emptying the frame, Anne's wheel is allowed to join the others on the hook.
Lunch break. Let's get something to eat.
Since there's no time to catch your breath at work, everyone is looking forward to the well-deserved lunch break. It's often the only time they can talk to colleagues. The work in the factory is lonely. Chao Wen lives alone on the factory campus, about 900 kilometers away from her husband and 2 children.
When will you see them again? I don't know yet. You must miss them terribly. Yes.
Like many Chinese migrant workers, Chao Wen only sees her family once a year at Chinese New Year. And it's still a good 6 months until then.
I don't know if I could do that. See my whole family just once a year for a week, then work the rest of the year and only live here on campus. I find that pretty hard and a little bit sad.
After a 2-hour lunch break, it's back to the spokes again. Has a little refreshment made the job any easier for Anne? Not at all. Xiaohuan assembles around 800 wheels in one day. After 2 hours, Anne has only managed 20.
It really frustrates me that I'm so bad at it. It looks so easy when she does it. She just does it easy peasy and I just can't get it right.
With the help of Xiaohuan, Anne somehow manages to do it. Although she stays far below her daily workload, Anne is still allowed to go home in the evening. Today's the final day, and in Guangzhou, it also starts with breakfast. But, unlike in Germany, you don't get a minced pork roll, but a yao chow to eat while you're walking to work. This is a kind of longish donut without sugar. Today, Anne is also present at the morning roll call. Here they discuss what didn't go so well the day before and what needs to be improved. Discipline is very important here. Today, Anne has to go back to the production line. Frames and wheels are now put together here. You just lift the chain with one finger and place it onto the gear wheel. Then it locks into place by itself.
You make it look so easy.
It is easy. Well, we'll soon see about that. If Anne doesn't clamp and screw the wheels the right way, the wheel won't run properly, or at worst, it might even fall off. Yet again, the heat is giving Anne a hard time today.
Right, this is coming off now. No one takes masks seriously anyway. Lots of people don't even wear one.
But at least the workers in this station keep a safe distance. Today, Anne needs to use a lot more muscle power. Again and again, she has to lift the tyres into their bracket. But it's always the little things that make her fail.
Who said this was easy? There are so many things you have to watch out for. The wheel has to be put into the bracket, the brake disc into the brake block, and the chain into the gear, under massive time pressure.
Further down the assembly line, the wheel is packed and made ready for shipping. This is Anne's last stop, but it seems more difficult than first thought. Each cable tie and the cardboard box have to be put in a particular place. And as a newcomer here, Anne is under special observation.
You fixed it in the wrong place. It has to go here.
Oh. Oopsie.
The bicycles are completely assembled, except for the front wheel. 5 bikes are placed on the pallet every minute.
Never in my life have I ever felt under so much time pressure as I do right now. I'm pretty exhausted now. Here they are put into boxes. Then it's off to Germany, and I want to go home now too.
Ich will jetzt auch nach Hause.
For Anne and her 1,000 colleagues, it's finally time for a well-deserved rest. 3 days of hard work in a Chinese bicycle factory. Anne now sees bicycles with different eyes. Behind every screw, there is such a lot of pressure, stress, and sweat.